I went on a summer island vacation a few months ago. I had just turned 32 and needed a break. I thought a cozy cottage on a remote island would be perfect. I wasn't an expert at camping, but I felt ready to recharge. The old clapboard house creaked when I stepped inside. The sound of the waves was calming. Little did I know this trip would leave me puzzled. On my second night, I woke up suddenly. I heard scratching at my window. At first I thought it was just a branch, but then I felt a chill. I glanced over and saw my curtains pushed aside even though the window was closed. I sat up, staring at it. My heart raced. I tried to tell myself I was just tired, so I turned over and went back to sleep. A few days went by. Something felt off. Just before dusk I started to hear voices. They echoed along the shore, but I couldn't make out the words. I went outside to try and catch the sounds more clearly, but they faded away. I thought maybe it was just the wind or my imagination. Then one evening I saw something strange. I spotted a figure in white standing at the water's edge. I thought it was just someone enjoying the sunset, so I walked closer. The sand felt cool under my toes. I shivered slightly as the breeze hit my arms, but as I drew near, the figure vanished into thin air. I stumbled back, feeling a knot twist in my stomach. It was probably just a trick of the light. I tried to ignore it. The next day I walked to the beach again. That's when I found strange footprints in the sand. They were much too big to be human. The way they sank into the sand made my stomach turn. I followed them, and they led straight from the ocean to my front door. I felt cold as I traced the prints. I wondered if I should report them. I told myself I was overreacting, but deep down, I felt something dark hanging over the place. That night I lay in bed wide awake. The scratching sound returned, only this time it was louder. I shivered and kept thinking, could this all be in my head? Just then, I heard a whisper. A soft, mournful voice from outside called my name. My heart raced. I turned on the light and looked outside. There was nobody there. Then I heard a voice ask, "Why are you here?" My breath caught in my throat. I looked again, but it was just darkness. I didn't know what to do. I swallowed hard, feeling the chill creep back into my bones. Was all this a nightmare? Or was there something on that island? I never wanted to leave so badly, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that the island was holding secrets. What was happening to me on that island? I didn't sleep well that night. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, waiting for dawn to break. The whispers followed me into my dreams, twisting and turning just out of reach. When morning finally came, I decided to take a walk along the beach. I needed to clear my head. As I stepped outside, the salty breeze hit my face. The sun was bright, cutting through my fog of anxiety. I walked toward the water, hoping the waves would wash away my fears. But as I approached the shoreline, I noticed something strange. The footprints from the day before weren't just at my door. They continued further down the beach. They were fresh, leading toward a rocky outcropping. Curiosity tugged at me. I followed them, hoping to find something that would explain the unsettling events from the past few nights. The prints were deep and wide, almost like they were made by something massive. I felt a pit in my stomach as I drew closer to the rocks. They rose sharply from the sand, jagged and imposing. When I reached the outcropping, I found evidence of something more. Scratches marred the stone surface like claw marks. I shivered at the thought. It was too much to ignore. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, but my hands were shaking. Just as I looked up, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. There it was again, an outline of a figure in white, just barely visible behind the rocks. I squinted, trying to get a better look, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I felt a jolt of panic. Was my mind playing tricks on me again? I glanced around, but the beach was empty. I stood there for a moment, hesitating. Then I noticed something glinting in the sun, partially buried in the sand near the rocky edge. I approached cautiously and bent down to see what it was. It was a small pendant, shaped like a seashell with intricate designs carved into it. I picked it up, feeling a strange warmth radiate from it as if it still held the energy of its owner. Suddenly the air around me shifted. A breeze picked up, sweeping sand against my legs. I felt like something was watching me. A rush of anxiety surged through me. I wanted to leave. I turned to head back, but then I heard it, my name being whispered, clear as day. It floated on the wind, chilling me to the core. "Why did you take it?" the voice implored once more. My blood ran cold. The words echoed in my mind. I barely had time to register what was happening before I turned and sprinted back to my cottage. My heart pounded in my chest, and my breath came in gasps. As I reached the door, I heard a loud crash behind me. My instincts kicked in and I burst inside, slamming the door shut. But I had a sinking feeling that whatever secrets lay on that island were not done with me yet. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had unleashed something by picking up that pendant, and now it was watching me. The moment I slammed the door, the sound reverberated through the small cottage. I leaned against it, heart racing. The whispers outside faded, but I still felt the weight of those words pressing on me. Why did I take it? It seemed like such a harmless thing, just a pretty pendant. Trying to calm myself, I decided to check my phone. My fingers trembled as I opened the camera roll. I glanced at the picture I had taken of the claw marks. They still looked ominous on the screen, and I felt the urge to delete it. But I couldn't. I had to know what I was dealing with. As I paced the room, I noticed something on the table, a note. I picked it up, and my stomach dropped. It was handwritten, the ink still slightly smudged. "You shouldn't have taken it. Leave the island now." My breath hitched in my throat. Who had left this for me? I glanced toward the window. The beach was eerily quiet. No waves crashed against the shore now. It was almost as if the whole world had paused. I could still feel that something was out there, lurking just beyond my sight. I had to talk to someone. I remembered the old fisherman I had seen earlier in my stay. He seemed to know the history of the island. Encouraged by a rush of adrenaline, I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. I hurried down the path, glancing back at my cottage, half expecting to see something shadowy lurking in the doorway. The fisherman's hut was located near the dock. As I approached, I saw him sitting on a crate, mending a net. He looked up and nodded at me, his expression unreadable. "What brings you here, lass?" he asked, his gravelly voice sending shivers down my spine. "I found something on the beach," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "A pendant. And I heard something. Voices." His expression shifted. "You shouldn't mess with things you don't understand. The island has its secrets." "Secrets?" I pressed, my urgency growing. "What do you mean? What's happening to me?" He paused, studying me for a moment, then sighed. "The old legends say that the island is home to spirits. They don't take kindly to trespassers." His gaze drifted past me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "You ought to leave, girl. Take my advice." I felt a mix of fear and frustration. I can't just leave, I have to know more. "Sometimes knowing more can cost you everything," he warned. Before I could respond, a loud noise echoed from the direction of my cottage. The sound of something heavy crashing to the ground sent us both into action. I turned and sprinted back, fear pushing me forward. I could hear the fisherman's footsteps behind me, but I didn't dare look back. As I rounded the path, the cottage loomed before me. I skidded to a stop, breathless. The door stood wide open. My heart sank. Someone, or something, had been inside. "Stay here," I shouted to the fisherman, but I was already stepping inside, my mind racing with every possible disaster. That's when I saw it, a shadow darting through the back room. "Who's there?" I yelled, gripping the pendant tightly as if it could protect me. But my voice only echoed back, leaving a tense silence in its wake. I felt trapped in my own home. Before I could process what was happening, the lights flickered, but not just flickered, they went completely dark. I stumbled backward as the darkness enveloped me, my heart pounding in my chest. I could barely see the outlines of my furniture. Everything felt foreign and threatening. The silence wrapped around me, thick and suffocating. I instinctively reached for my phone, but the screen wouldn't light up. Panic seized me. "Is anyone there?" I called out again, my voice trembling. No answer came, just the hollow echo of my words bouncing off the walls. The fear settled in my stomach like a heavy rock. Then I heard it, a whisper, barely audible, like a breeze passing through the cracks. "Leave." The voice was distant and haunting. I could feel the hairs on my arms stand on end. I took a cautious step forward, my foot brushing against the edge of the coffee table. My hand moved to the wall, searching for a light switch. I flicked it multiple times, but nothing happened. Desperation filled me. I needed light. I needed to know what was lurking in the shadows. Taking a deep breath, I moved towards the back room where I'd seen the shadow. As I crept forward, a chill swept through the cottage. A faint glow flickered from the back room, dancing off the walls like a ghostly lantern. I hesitated for a moment, my instincts urging me to flee, but I pressed on, driven by curiosity and fear. When I reached the doorway, I paused. The glow was coming from the open window. I could feel a draft brush against my cheek as the night air rushed in. I peered inside, my heart racing. The back room appeared empty, but something caught my eye on the floor. A small silver object reflecting the muted light. I bent down to pick it up. It was a locket, tarnished and fragile. I opened it, expecting to see a picture, but instead, I found a slip of paper that read, "The past never forgets." My pulse quickened as I folded the note back inside the locket. "Are you there?" I called out again, hesitating. I turned back towards the main room. Just as I did, I heard the front door slam shut. The sound echoed like thunder, sending a jolt of terror through me. "Stay calm," I whispered to myself. I took a deep breath and decided to investigate. I stepped back into the other room, determined to confront whatever was happening. But then I heard it again. The voice, louder this time, clearer. "Leave this place." I froze. It was closer now, and I could almost feel it hovering behind me. Just as I turned, I saw the outline of a figure standing in the doorway. Faint but unmistakable, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. "Leave now," it commanded, the voice echoing through the room, more forceful than before. My instincts kicked in. I backed away until my back hit the wall. Then the lights flickered back on. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust. Everything looked the same, but that figure had vanished. Had I imagined it? I couldn't tell. Suddenly, I felt an icy breeze swirl around me. In that moment of confusion, I glanced at the locket in my hand. I had to leave the island. I had to leave right now. But as I turned to run, I noticed the cottage door was now firmly shut. There was no way out. I pressed my ear against the door, half expecting to hear something on the other side. Nothing. Just an uneasy quiet. I pushed against it, but it wouldn't budge. My heart raced as I realized I was trapped. I needed to think fast. The locket felt heavy in my palm. I could still remember the words from the note. "The past never forgets." What did it mean? I turned back to the room, scanning for another exit, or anything that might help me. The open window was an option, but it wasn't a safe one. The drop to the ground below looked daunting. Trembling, I searched around the room and caught sight of a wooden chair. I grabbed it and knocked on the door, hoping to draw attention. "Help! Is anyone out there?" My voice was barely louder than a whisper. I leaned my weight against the door, trying to rattle it one more time. That's when I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping. It was coming from the other side of the door. My breath quickened. I backed away, unsure of what to do next. Was it someone trying to help or something more sinister? The tapping continued, building into an urgent beat. I turned toward the window. It was now the only option. I pushed the window open wider, feeling the night air rush in, bringing a hint of salt and something else. Something rotting. I took a deep breath and climbed onto the sill. Just as I was about to leap out, I glanced back at the door. The tapping had stopped. In its place, I heard a familiar voice, now muffled yet clear. "You cannot escape." I froze. It was the same voice that had urged me to leave. It sent a chill down my spine. I looked out at the ground below, debating whether to jump or face whatever was behind the door. In that moment of indecision, I heard a creaking sound from somewhere in the cottage. The floorboards groaned, as if something heavy was shifting. My stomach dropped. Whatever was in here with me wasn't done yet. My heart thundered as I held my breath. I had to choose, jump or stay and confront the unknown. A sudden rush of adrenaline pushed me into action. I climbed out of the window and landed awkwardly on the ground, pain shooting up my ankle. Ignoring the pain, I darted into the night, trying to create distance between myself and the cottage. I could feel a frantic energy coursing through me. Glancing back, I saw a shadow move behind the window, just for a moment. My chest tightened. They weren't finished with me yet. With my heart pounding, I ran towards the edge of the woods that surrounded the cottage. As I sprinted, the whisper echoed in my mind. You cannot escape. I had to find safety. The island had secrets, and I was determined to unravel them, but not without putting myself in even greater danger. And that's when I stumbled upon it. A hidden path, winding deeper into the forest. Something drew me in, pulling me away from the horror behind me. I glanced back one last time, but the cottage remained still. The darkness had wrapped around it, quiet once more. I hesitated at the path's entrance, my pulse quickening. What awaited me in the shadows ahead? I had to take the risk. That was the only way to find out what was going on. Gripping the locket tightly, I stepped down the hidden trail, bracing myself for whatever lay ahead. The path twisted and turned, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to close in on me. Their branches stretched out like gnarled fingers, and the underbrush crackled underfoot. I forced myself to keep moving, even as doubts crept into my mind. What was that voice? Why was I drawn to this place? As I walked deeper into the woods, the air grew colder, and an unsettling silence enveloped me. I could barely hear my own breathing. Shadows danced around the trunks, and I felt eyes on me. Imaginary or not, they made my skin prickle. I pushed the unease aside. I needed answers. That's when I noticed a strange glow ahead. It piqued my curiosity, pulling me further down the path. When I stepped into a small clearing, I gasped. An old well stood in the center, dirt-covered stones embedded like ancient teeth. The glow emanated from within, casting eerie reflections around the clearing. I approached cautiously, the locket in my hand growing warm against my palm. Peering into the darkness, I felt an overwhelming urge to reach down and touch whatever lay beneath the surface. The glow flickered, and I caught a glimpse of something shiny, an object that looked like it hadn't seen the light of day in years. Just as I was about to lean over the edge, I heard a rustle behind me. My heart stopped. I turned quickly, scanning the trees. "Hello?" I called, my voice betraying my fear. Silence ensued, but the rustling continued. Panic surged through me. Was someone else here? Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman, ethereal and misty as if she weren't fully there. Her eyes were wide and wild, reflecting the glow from the well. I took a step back, unsure of how to react. "Who are you?" I stammered. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out towards the well, her fingers almost touching the surface. "You must see it," she whispered, her voice soft but insistent. "The truth is below." I hesitated, fear mingling with a powerful urge to understand. The memory of the cottage and the voice warning me echoed in my mind. Was this connected? "What truth?" I asked. But before she could respond, the ground shook slightly beneath my feet. Suddenly, several old branches snapped, and I stumbled sideways, losing my balance. In that instant, the woman's form flickered, as if caught between worlds. I blinked, and she was gone. Panic took hold again. Was this some kind of illusion? A trick of the woods? Then, from behind me, a low growl reached my ears. My skin prickled. Whatever had been watching me was drawing closer. I turned to face the sound, dread washing over me as I scanned the darkened tree line. The glow from the well pulsed, casting strange shadows. I knew I had to think quick. I couldn't confront whatever was coming. I needed a plan. I started to back away from the well, instinct guiding me, but the growling grew louder, more menacing. I had stumbled into something much bigger than I realized, and now I had to deal with the consequences. That's when I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes peering from the shadows. It was too late to flee. "Show yourself!" I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. I didn't know what I was challenging, but it was coming for me. and I didn't plan on backing down. Then everything went dark. I felt weightlessness for what seemed like an eternity. Then, like a sudden storm breaking, light flooded back, illuminating the clearing. I was back by the well, but something was off. My surroundings pulsed, as if reality had been warped. I blinked and tried to regain my bearings. My pulse raced. The growl had faded, but the air was charged with something, an expectation I could almost taste. I rubbed my eyes, still disoriented. The well's glow seemed brighter now, more inviting and sinister at the same time. I could hear whispering, but it was muffled, like muffled chatter behind a door. Something moved again, a shadow flickering at the edge of the clearing. I turned, heart hammering, eyes straining in the dim light. It was not the glowing eyes I had seen before. This was different. Slender, almost human, but twisted, long limbs and a gaping mouth that seemed to smile impossibly wide. "Get away from me!" I shouted, adrenaline igniting my instincts. I took a step toward the forest, ready to run, but the figure didn't approach. Instead, it tilted its head, its eyes burning with curiosity. "Why do you run?" a voice chimed. It sounded young, almost innocent, yet laced with something dark. I froze, caught off guard by the question. "I'm not here to harm you," I called back, but my voice trembled. "What do you want?" "Want?" The creature laughed lightly, but there was an edge to its tone. "You came here, didn't you? Drawn by the light, to unveil the truth?" I glanced at the well. It flickered as if in response. I don't know," I stammered, my fear bubbling. "I just need to get answers." The creature advanced slightly, its long fingers curling in a gesture that seemed inviting but made me shudder. "Answers don't come without a cost," it said softly, the light of the well glinting off its sharp, unnaturally white teeth. "Do you have anything to offer?" I felt the locket in my pocket. This was no ordinary trinket. It belonged to my grandmother, filled with stories. Would it be enough? "No," I blurted. "I won't give you anything. Just tell me what happened here." The creature's smile widened, and the shadows around it twisted unnaturally. "Very well, then witness the truth." Before I could react, the mist around the clearing thickened, swirling violently. Images flickered to life in the air, phantoms dancing through them. Scenes of laughter, pain, and despair flashed before my eyes. People I didn't recognize, but their faces conveyed deep emotion. Voices cried out, weaving a tapestry of history that spoke of loss. I stumbled backward, overwhelmed. "What is this?" I screamed, but the sounds grew louder, drowning out my protests. A spotlight shone on the well, illuminating dark secrets trapped below, whispering back at me. And just as suddenly, it stopped. Stunned silence swallowed the clearing. Breathless, I looked around, realizing the creature had vanished. Only the well remained, its glow now flickering like a dying ember. Something sharp touched my neck. A shadow loomed behind me, and I spun around, dread washing over me again. Someone was there watching me. I faced the figure, my heart racing. It was a woman cloaked in shadows, her features obscured by the dim light. But there was something familiar about her. I squinted, trying to see more clearly. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to mask my fear. "What do you want?" She stepped closer, her voice low and soothing. "You need to listen. Time is running out." Her tone sent chills through me, but I felt compelled to stay. "Listen to what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on here?" She extended her hand, revealing an old photograph. "You must see this first," she insisted. The picture was faded, but the faces were hauntingly clear. It showed a group of people standing near the well. I recognized one of them immediately, a younger version of my grandmother. Confusion swept over me. "What does this mean?" I asked, heart sinking. "I don't understand." "You don't yet," she replied, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. "But you need to learn. The well holds the past, and the past holds the key to your future." I took a step back, shaken. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you have a choice to make," she said, her voice firm. "You can either walk away now or you can dive deeper into the truth. But choosing ignorance comes with a price." The shadows around her seemed to ripple as she spoke, thickening like ink. "What price?" I pressed, sensing danger. I glanced back at the well, remembering the terrifying visions I had just witnessed. She smiled sadly, as if she knew more than she was letting on. "The truth can hurt. Some truths are best left buried, but if you want answers, you'll need to confront what happened to your family." My mind raced with questions. What happened to them? Who were those people? Her expression shifted, the shadows receding slightly. Things went wrong here long ago. Secrets, betrayal. It led to their disappearance. And now those secrets are tangled with you. I shook my head. "I can't do this. I'm not ready." My voice cracked. Uncertainty clawed at my insides. "Then it's already too late," she murmured. Just then the air grew cold and the well glowed ominously. "They're waiting for your decision." Suddenly the clearing trembled, the ground beneath me shifting as if protesting. I stumbled forward, trying to brace myself. The photograph slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the ground. In that moment I caught a glimpse of a figure lurking behind the trees, a dark mass, silently watching. Fear surged again. "What was that?" I gasped, looking back to find the woman fading, her warning already suspended in the heavy atmosphere. "Confront your past," she called out as she vanished into the dark. "Or let it consume you." Then everything went still. The shadows melted into the trees and I was alone once more. That's when I saw it. A reflection in the still waters of the well. A face that was not my own, but staring back at me with eyes that whispered secrets I wasn't ready to hear. The next few days blurred together in a haze of anxiety. I couldn't shake the woman's words from my mind. Each time I passed the well, it beckoned me. A dark hole of secrets and fears. I found myself waking in the night, drenched in sweat, her image haunting my dreams. I needed answers. On the fourth day, I decided to confront my grandmother. I hoped she would know what to make of the photograph and the woman. I drove to her house, my heart pounding with every mile. I knew she had always been a keeper of family stories, but I also felt dread creeping up my spine. What if it was too late for her to help? When I arrived, the air felt thick and heavy. I pushed through the door unannounced. "Grandma, are you home?" Her voice echoed from the back room. "In the kitchen, dear." I stepped into the kitchen where the familiar smell of cookies wafted through the air. My grandmother was at the counter, her back turned to me. She hummed softly to herself as she mixed ingredients. I cleared my throat. "Hey, can I ask you something?" She turned, a smile breaking across her face, but it faltered when she saw my expression. "What's wrong, sweetie?" I hesitated but decided I had to just spill it. "Do you remember anything about the well, about our family? I found an old photo." Her eyes narrowed slightly, an unusual stiffness taking over her demeanor. "The well? You shouldn't be messing with that." Her sudden change caught me off guard. "Why not? What happened there?" I pressed, unable to back down. "Some things are better left forgotten," she said, her voice low. "Grandma, please, I saw a woman by the well. She told me to confront the past, but I don't know what to do. What happened to our family?" My voice grew frantic, echoing against the kitchen walls. For a long moment she stared at me. I could see the turmoil churning behind her eyes. Then she sighed, surrendering to something unspoken. "There are things I never wanted you to know. Secrets that could hurt you." Feeling desperate, I leaned in. "But I need to know. I think it connects to the photo. It looks like you were there." Her face fell and the quiet tension wrapped around us like a fog. "You shouldn't have found that." I swallowed hard. Why? What was going on back then? Just then, a loud crash came from the living room. We exchanged startled looks. Without thinking, I bolted through the doorway, my heart racing again. But when I entered, no one was there. The room was empty, save for the scattered books on the floor. My pulse quickened. "Did you hear that?" I called back to my grandmother, but she remained silent. Then something caught my eye. A small box by the fireplace, partially hidden behind a chair. I approached it cautiously, feeling an odd pull toward it. As I knelt to inspect it, my hand trembled. That's when I heard it. A whisper, barely audible, but distinctly familiar. It called my name, wrapping around my senses like smoke. I froze, an electric thrill running through me. I glanced back at the kitchen, debating whether to call my grandmother. But before I could move, the box seemed to shift slightly, as if beckoning me to open it. What lay inside felt like another piece of the puzzle. But was I ready for it? With shaky hands, I lifted the box and opened it, revealing a collection of old letters tied together with a faded ribbon. My heart raced as I pulled them out one by one, the paper crumbling at my touch. I began to read. They were letters written by my grandmother, addressed to someone named Evelyn. The words spilled secrets, mentions of the well, of whispered voices and shadows that lingered long after the sun set. I felt the weight of her words, heavy with history and fear. Each line drew me deeper into a past I never knew. Stories of loss, tragedy, and the rumor that the well was a portal to something otherworldly. "Why did you keep this from me?" I whispered to myself, feeling a twist of betrayal. Could it be true? Were our family ties wrapped in mysteries best left buried? Just then, I heard my grandmother's footsteps approaching. Panicking, I hastily stuffed the letters back into the box and closed it. I had to confront her, to demand answers about Evelyn and the well. When she entered, the light shifted, lending her a spectral air. "What did you find?" she asked, her voice tinged with an unguarded edge. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. The letters. Who is Evelyn? What happened with the well? Her eyes darkened, flickering between fear and defiance. "It's too late for this. You need to forget what you've learned," she said sharply. "Forget?" I echoed incredulously. "My family is tied to this. You can't expect me to just walk away." The tension between us crackled. She stepped forward, gripping my arm tightly. "You don't understand. There are forces at play that you can't begin to comprehend." "Then explain it to me," I demanded, pushing back against her grip. "I won't stand by while I'm haunted by a past I can't understand." She released my arm, sighing deeply as if the weight of the world pressed on her chest. "Very well," she said finally, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Long ago I was warned to stay away from the well, but your great-grandmother, she didn't listen. She discovered something. A power, perhaps. It drew her in like a moth to a flame." "And Evelyn?" I pressed, desperate for clarity. "She was a friend. They delved too deep into that well, believing they could harness its energy. But something went wrong. They disappeared one night, and I swore to keep it hidden, to protect you and the rest of our family. The well. It's alive," she admitted, dread lining her words. My thoughts swirled as I tried to grasp the implications of her confession. What do you mean, alive? The spirits trapped within, they'll stop at nothing to reclaim what is theirs. Panic surged within me. I was already entangled in these hidden knots of our family's past. I saw something by the well, a woman, and those creatures. Suddenly, a burst of cold air rushed through the living room, snuffing out the light. Silhouetted figures flickered in and out of the shadows beyond the window, whispering my name. My pulse quickened at the sound reverberating through the air. "We need to go, now." My grandmother grabbed my hand, leading me out of the house and into the murky twilight. The whispers grew louder, swirling around us, taunts and pleas intertwining. The well pulsed with an unsettling energy, beckoning me to join the ranks of the lost. "Stay close," she urged, her voice taut with urgency as we navigated the winding paths back to the well. Each step felt like an echo of the past. Memories flooded my mind, faces of those who had come before us, shadows of the forgotten lingering just beneath the surface. As we reached the clearing, the well's glow intensified, mesmerizing and foreboding. "We have to confront it, face the truth," my grandmother said, her voice strong but wavering. I nodded, heart pounding, knowing I was standing at the precipice of revelation. In that moment the air changed. The shadows coalesced, resembling figures, those I had seen in my dreams. But this time, they stood strong, eyes burning into my soul. You cannot escape your lineage. Their voices echoed, a chorus of lost souls weaving through the trees. Enough! My grandmother shouted, stepping between me and the shadows, a fierce protectiveness igniting within her. You have no power over her. The shadows recoiled, their whispers rising in crescendo, but fading into silence at her command. I felt a crack in the air, the weight of the long-kept truths pressing against our chests. Tell me, I urged, how can we end this? The well needs offering, she said, voice trembling as if the words were hard to swallow. A sacrifice. I shifted, heart racing at the implication. What do you mean? For a moment she faltered, her gaze locked on mine with a fierce desperation. Only by confronting the darkness within and understanding the choices of our own blood can we find closure. I felt a mixture of fear and resolve. Then we have to do it together. But before we could move forward, a surge of energy erupted from the well. The shadows distorted, twisting around us in a frenzy. You cannot fight it, they shrieked, and then everything went dark once again. When the light returned, I found myself standing on the shoreline of the island, the well nowhere in sight. Waves crashed against the rocks, echoing the whispers of the past. I looked around, breathless, my grandmother's absence leaving a haunting void. I had escaped, but where was she? In that moment of confusion, I felt an overwhelming dread. The well's warmth still lingered in my palm, the locket. I clutched it tightly, knowing the confrontation wasn't over. I had ties that reached deep into the shadows of our history. As the sun dipped low in the sky, I made my way back to my cottage, every step weighed down with the burden of Lilith's secrets. I still didn't know the nature of the powers trapped within the island, or how much of it was only in my mind. I moved out of that cottage the next day. Sometimes I think about returning to uncover more, if only to free my grandmother and the others chained to that place. But mostly, I avoid it like the lingering echoes of a forgotten dream. As mistrust blooms where shadows haunt, hidden truths always lurking behind.